If I were a white person and I said I want to transition into a black person, and I'm redefining what blackness is to
Everybody, I can just say every motherfucking person would be outraged about that.
fit what I view it as, right? Would you consider that appropriation?
I consider that dodging, and I consider that comparing apples to oranges because race and gender identity are two separate different things.
YouTube, you tuned in to Click React, man, and we got a special video for you today, man. This one comes from Jubilee, and it's called Trans versus Conservative Women. Are periods essential to womanhood? So basically, you know, trans females versus conservative women are basically talking about what makes a woman, and you know, stuff along that line. I just saw like a little clip from it, and it got me interested in watching because of one of the people speaking in this, right? So guys, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, turn on post notifications, drop a like, and let me know what you think about the views from either side here, man. We're just gonna get right into it. I'll see you guys later.
Do you think that children should be able to transition medically?
No.
Hell no.
No?
No.
It
Hell
just
no.
really depends on each individual.
No, it doesn't. Shut the
situation.
fuck up.
They should be able to make the best medical decision for them.
How would they know the best medical decision as a child? What the fuck is she?
I am comfortable sharing bathrooms with the other side.
That should not be allowed.
Trans and non-binary community. We're talking about a book that was written by man with his own bias.
Who created chromosomes?
Yeah, I'm personally not religious and I believe in science.
When we talk about chromosomes, it goes back to the conversation we were talking about earlier about being intersex.
So we're not talking about intersex, we're talking about people who were born as a male and they tried to transition. The whole fact that they're trying to transition into a female in the first place shows that they aren't actually that or there would be no need to transition, right? So you say, okay, I feel like a woman. What is that? What does that feel like?
Yeah, how does it
And how do you know?
I'm not saying I feel like a woman. I am a woman.
So then why did you transition? Why can't you just present
yourself
as a man but be a woman?
I transitioned so I could be who I was. I did not feel like I was the person that I identified with when I was born. So I took the steps to align my outside body with how I feel on the inside. What makes you stand up every day and make you identify as a woman? Let me challenge you on that.
I am a woman,
vagina.
and I don't like being called a cis woman because I'm not a cis woman. I'm a woman. I'm not a
It's fact.
birthing person.
Simple.
I'm a mother.
So get mad at the terminology, not at trans people.
It's your new terminology.
Like what?
This is what I notice a lot of cis women do.
So yeah, this person is actually ignorant as fuck. Like no real facts of anything, just a rambler, babbling fuckery. To be honest, this other person right here has some sense, and this one definitely has some sense. But this one, no sense.
Like Matt Walsh.
Yeah, please define what a woman is to these women.
Womanhood, to me, is about standing in integrity.
Bro,
It is
shut the
about being
fuck
confident
up.
in who you are.
I can't.
And me, as a black trans woman, should not be a threat to you. And what I see from a lot of cisgender women is they're trying to deem what womanhood is supposed to look like. I have my own perspective of womanhood. We can coexist in the same world, but the reality is we get so stuck on parts.
Look at her face.
Having a vagina is not the only thing that makes you a woman. I'm sorry. It takes integrity, it takes courage, it takes lifting other women up. It takes those things to begin to defy womanhood, and there's so many other different things.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, so if I were a white person and I said blackness is about integrity and courage and kind of the same thing that you used to define womanhood, and then I said I want to transition into a black person and I'm white, and I'm redefining what blackness is to fit what I view it as,
You
right?
can already see it. There's no comprehension receptors available, so
There's no objective
Let's
reality
see.
of what blackness is. Would you consider that appropriation, or do you think that's something I should be allowed to do?
I consider that dodging, and I consider that comparing apples to oranges because race and gender identity are two separate different
Damn, you
things.
stupid.
Because when we look at race, we have to look at many, many different structures of what whiteness and white supremacy looks like,
what
and
the
how white
fuck? How does white supremacy get in this shit? Bro, if she just said she's white and she wants to identify as black because she is resilient. she can do that based on your definition. That makes no fucking sense.
Supremacy can be manipulated into other things. And what happens is the closer you are in
What?
proximity to whiteness, you're able to weaponize it against other people. It reminds me a lot of Rachel Dolezal.
Yo, I can't. Yo, this shit is, you can't make this shit up. I call that dodging and compare what? No.
Who, you know, masqueraded as a black woman. It really did open up many more doors of conversations around
You're
it.
just a fucking
but
babbling
it's still
rambler.
Wrong. It's still not fair because she will still ultimately have a privilege that I, as a black trans woman, would not begin to have.
What's interesting is that we're talking about race and gender, or as we probably like to call it on our side, sex. Race actually has a more understandable structure for people being transracial. Race does actually exist on a
Facts.
spectrum. I'm biracial. Many perceive me to be black, even though I am also half white and half black. We label people like President Obama as a black president, even though he is as well. Race has never had binary markers. It does exist on a spectrum. Gender,
And now
however...
and you're gonna say, oh, it's not the same thing. It's actually like bullshit to be saying, to come up with that example that she came up with when she actually has more of a valid point. This lady who is mixed, who is half white, half black, can actually say she's white, but people would look at her more psycho than if this person said, like, well, I was born as a guy, but now I'm a girl. Like, how does that make sense?
Does have binary markers. As much as we try, as much as we change the way that we self-present, chromosomes are not going to change. And that's just a reality.
All right, I'm going to bring up a little point here because you talked about the binary side of
I do think that trans women have
Allowed to compete in women's sports.
Okay. Okay.
I do think that trans women have every right to compete in women's
Oh,
sports.
God.
When trans women are on hormones, the hormones break their body down.
No.
Having gender affirming surgery
not enough.
breaks down the body. And so I think we really need to be educated
Not enough.
before.
And if that was the case, bro, as we can literally see when women change and they go to men's sports, they've been taking testosterone and shit, they still get their ass handed to them. So it doesn't work that way.
we jump to a conclusion that trans women are stronger than cis women in sports.
You are. You're like physically, you and this white person here are physically stronger than all these
I find
women
it
here.
interesting that you
Like, what
assume
the
that people
fuck are you
who
talking
disagree
about?
with you are uneducated, and I will speak out against that. I think the research shows that trans women do happen to have a biological advantage against biological women, even though you are taking hormones, and that does start to change your body and level
100%,
things
but it
out.
doesn't
We're
change
talking about
everything.
primarily people who have
Height.
transitioned post-puberty.
Like, just imagine Yao Ming. I don't know if you guys remember Yao Ming. Man's like, yeah, I want to be a girl now. Yao Ming, you know. And he's like, yeah, I want to be a girl. Take hormones, whatever. That nigga is not going to shrink. He is going to go over there and wax all the... Yo, come on, bro.
Which means they do have male
Smart-
bone density,
oh.
male wingspan, male hand size, feet size, lung capacity.
Fact.
All of these things are going against women, biological women, when trans women start to enter their spaces, their sports, and compete against them.
Facts.
And this is really concerning for me.
I think for me, it's not a question of whether or not trans women can compete in sports. It's a question of how can we change the institution of sports in this country to make it equitable and to create more opportunity for cis women,
People need to
for
start showing
trans
up.
women. And like that's kind of like
That's
why
not
I
gonna
wanted
happen.
to actually ask you all, like, what has your relationship to sports been?
I don't think you have to have a direct relationship to sports to realize that women are being affected by this issue, and I do reject the idea of equity. There is no way to come about an equality of outcome, which is what equity is saying. There's a reason that women's sports are less funded and less watched than men's sports. It's because men
Not as
seem
entertaining.
to excel athletically, and they seem to press the bounds of athleticism way farther than women do.
100%.
I use myself as an example. This is about how big I was in junior high school and
Okay.
early high
That's-
school. I used to be able to walk up to a V8 engine block, powerlifting or weightlifting. That amount of, that advantage was just unbelievable. I've been on hormones for 15 years. Did it weaken me? Absolutely. Of
course.
Did my bone density really hasn't changed? My muscular hasn't changed. And this is not a binary question. There's a lot of nuances involved.
I just want to ask a question for what you were saying.
Man, shut the
Can
fuck
you
up.
throw out some statistics?
Shut the fuck up.
I don't think you need to have so there's an abundance of research. There's even trans activists who agree with exactly what I'm saying. And your hormones can
This
change,
trans woman right here is
And
telling you.
even she just spoke to the fact
She
that her
just
bone
told
density
you.
did not change in going on hormones and changing these things. And we can see it in sports as we're watching them. Leah Thomas is a great example.
So if you can't throw out the statistics, we're not doing enough of the work. And let's also be
disagree.
clear. Let's also be clear. There are some cisgender women who produce high levels of testosterone as well. And so we
but that's
really
natural.
have to unpack it from all different sides here.
Can you produce statistics about the bone density of biological men and how it changes upon being on hormones and whether or not it levels out to biological women?
I actually cannot, because when I would think of
'Cause
those
you're not doing
statistics,
enough.
I would
Shut
think
the
it was
fuck
BS,
up.
to be quite honest with you, because the reality of it is we could talk about statistics and the research all day long, but it's about experience. We're going to be looking more at
they
the
should just-
experience, because again,
This person is just
when
so
we look
fucking
at cisgender
ignorant.
women who
Like,
produce high levels,
I feel like as to represent trans women on this show, like she was a horrible fucking candidate because she doesn't know shit she's talking about. Like she's just a rambler. The white trans woman or whatever, like facts, like, you know, sensible shit, didn't agree with everything, whatever. But this motherfucker has no sense. She's just a horrible representation for them on this show because look at her face. Like just talking bare fuckery. When shit suits her, it's bullshit or it's dodging. Like makes sense,
of
bro.
testosterone, and who have been kicked out of sports and been disqualified from teams based on something that they biologically cannot control, then what are we really talking about here?
I think
Well,
they
we're
just
talking about, data and that is overwhelming, and we're talking about what is also we're capable of seeing with our human eyes.
Fucking
I think
eyes,
it's
bro.
very
Like,
clear
are you a
that if you
crackhead?
compare maybe you to the rest of us, there is going to be a strength difference. There's going to be a
You
bone
don't know
density
that.
difference.
But you're just saying that you don't know.
we
until
can
you-
look. We can look. Fool. Like what is this? Your arm. So muscle mass is greatly actually attributed to strength. Like the bigger your muscle, the stronger you normally are. Look at this lady's non-existent tricep here, right? And I know I can't say, okay, this trans woman is not working out, but look at the arm here. Look at this. Look at this. Like we can physically see that. She literally just tried to say you can't look at her and tell that she's struggling. Yeah. You can't make this shit up.
physically do something and just perceiving and assuming just because
You're just
I
a
look
fucking
certain
rambling
way,
babbler.
That's not fair. Me and her we could look completely different or whatever, but she may be stronger than me. She may
not
have
really.
she have much more agility and vitality than I do. We don't know that until
she
you
just said strength.
actually do it.
I'm
until
saying
you
that
actually
it has
it's
been
been
experience it.
done.
studied, it's been done.
And it's been done. We've seen it
But
numerous
it's an
times,
assumption.
time again.
But we're only
It's-
going on
it's-
assumption at this point. Because again,
It's not assumption when we see.
we've seen
when
the
we see
test.
it. Maybe it's the news
Oh,
cycle
damn,
that
you
I
stupid
watch,
as
but
fuck.
I see it a lot. I see it quite often where they're showing trans women beating. I mean, I'm by far.
And you don't see women
Biological women.
dominating in the men's sports,
that will
right?
never
You don't
happen.
see trans men going into men's sport and just completely dominating and wiping the field with them. This is what happens when you, in my opinion, twist God's design. And when you go against God's design, you create these problems that you wouldn't have if you weren't going against.
put me here. So
So
I
why
don't think
didn't he
it's
make
fair.
you?
I don't think it's fair.
When I had this conversation with the very, it was like, oh,
That way. But he didn't make a lot of the people transitioning.
I understand.
No, but
male
God also
or
understands my transition. God, first of all, knew what I was going to be in my life. God already knew I was going to be trans when God put me here. So I
why
don't think
didn't he
it's
make
fair.
you
I don't think it's fair when
female?
people dip and
good
dab.
question.
Your relationship with God is personal.
Yes.
It's sacred.
So
And I-
wasn't this person the same one that was talking about a book that was written by some man? I don't even want to hear
I don't
this.
think it's fair when other people
You
dip.
know what you guys think about those little topics, like, you know, women's sports. Should trans women be able to compete with women's sports? I think it's a hell fucking no. The bathroom thing, I think genders should stay to genders. Me personally, you know, niggas are creeps out here, and I think it really does open up a way for pervert ass niggas to do pervert ass things. Like, what was the other topic? Just let me know. Just in the comments, let me know what you guys think, man. Appreciate you guys for watching. I wish that this person was not invited and they brought somebody with actual common sense that just doesn't ramble and speak emotionally, because it could have been a healthier debate, especially if that other white trans woman was allowed to speak more. I think the debate or the convo would have had more sense, but she's a fucking idiot. But yeah, man, I'll see you guys later.